Hello, everyone. This is Audrey White. I'm your presenter today. I have with me Sir Flufferdoodle. I hope you don't mind him. He was needing a little extra attention. Anyway, hopefully it won't be too distracting. What I did was I did some research on personality types and second language learning, as I find this to be a very interesting area to look at. And while doing my research, I actually came across a thesis paper written by a professor, Meenakshi. I hope I say that correct. Meenakshi. Yes, I believe that's correct. Meenakshi. Oh, sorry if it's not. Anyway, I tried my best. Basically, the paper discussed PH level research that was conducted in the area of showing how individual variability of second language learners is considered one of the most important factors in the second language acquisition process. The first part of the paper looked at different variables like empathy, self-esteem, anxiety, and extroversion, introversion aspects. That part was pretty cut and dry, but it was the second part of the paper that I found most interesting and helpful for today's discussion. It's applicable and pertinent. It should be noted that the thesis did in fact conclude, as might be expected, that there exist major difficulties in identifying and measuring personality characteristics accurately. Therefore, it's even more challenging to show a single clearly defined relationship between personality traits and second language acquisition. It was further determined that more qualitative research is needed to adequately capture the depth and complexity of any relationship between personality and second learning language acquisition, because most research done is on quantitative data. For example, the Myers-Briggs test that everybody knows about, which I took this week as one of the assignments. Again, that's quantitative data. There's substantial amount. I won't say there's enough. There's a substantial amount of data available out there, but there isn't enough qualitative. However, I did want to look at some of the findings concerning the theses that were studied for this research paper, because the researchers and the research done, bottom line is they believe that personality does have an important influence on success in second language acquisition learning. What's important for today's discussion is to point out how important it is for teachers to recognize students' personality as much as possible, and of course as much as practical, in order to supply them with suitable instructions and create the accurate atmosphere for learning. So getting back to some of the research provided in the thesis that I'm referring to, that I would consider helpful information. I'm going to go over, there were 5 theses that were studied. I want to go over them briefly, summarize them, and discuss them as far as what their importance is and applicable to today's discussion. All right, so the first one was done by Brenda Wiltz in her PhD thesis, and she established that there exist personality types and grade point averages that have a direct correlation with each other. She used the Keirsey Temperament Sorter 2, which is a personality inventory that determines the 4 dimensions in a person's personality, much like the Myers-Briggs, that included introvert and extrovert, intuition versus sensing, thinking versus feeling, and judgment versus perception. The second thesis was written by Shalabi in 2003, and it was titled The Study of Theories of Personality and Learning Styles, Some Implications and Sample Activities to Support Curriculum Change in a Higher Education TESOL Program in Syria. What is interesting and helpful was that the research was done by Shalabi, and it provided sample communicative activities that look at theories of personality and learning styles and highlighted the relevance to personality, learning style, and teaching and learning processes. The third thesis presented in the paper looked at a fairly large study done in Sri Lanka that showed that pedagogy cannot be independent of the social cultural context of learners, and this is also very important, and it has to do with personality. It offered 3 features that should be considered for the second learning acquisition learner. It offered 3 features, which was 1, develop curriculum within the social cultural context of the learner. 2, be oriented to the culture of the learners. And number 3, incorporate teaching material based on rhetoric indigenous to their culture. And I know these are pretty straightforward, but it is good to be reminded of their importance and, back that up with thesis work that has been done. The fourth thesis was by Cheryl Shirley in 2007 and aimed to investigate the problem of the relationship between personality when operationalized at the facet level of measurement and second language learning. What it found, the test that is, found that when personality was operationalized at the facet level of measurement, an improved understanding of the relationship between personality and second language learning emerged, and it was considered significant. The findings were. The last test, last but not least, was a study done by Chu, and I couldn't say the first name, so I'm going to say Professor Chu or Dr. Chu. In her thesis, she indicated that non-shy students reported using strategies more often across all strategy types than their shy counterparts, with compensation strategies being used the most often, and social strategies the least often. So after reading this paper, after going through the different studies that were done and the results, I wanted to share my final conclusion, which is that I am convinced, again, regardless of the fact that there isn't enough qualitative data to support this, there is enough quantitative and experiential data that does convince me to incorporate simple personality tests for my students because of the information that it can give. It can be both helpful to myself and to my students. It also provides an opportunity for looking at methods of teaching that can result in a better learning environment, which is the ultimate goal. Thank you for listening.